Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday. I was waiting for Eddie to hit the live button. He's my producer husband in the background. So I was like, hit the live. So this week, out of request for you guys, we're going to be talking about FHA, which is Federal Housing. Federal Housing Association, Federal Housing Administration. Oh my gosh, total brain fart. Federal Housing Administration, which is a federally backed loan, meaning that it is funded and it is secured by the federal government. And we're going to be talking about VA loans, which is if you've been in the military, you can use your VA loan. It's a benefit to you as a veteran of the United States. And that was a request that you guys made. So I have one of my favorite people in the world coming on, and you're going to meet him in just a minute. His name is Malcolm Lawson. But before that, I want to say thank you because I have the best subscribers in the world. I've opened up my P.O. box the other day, and I had a nice little stack of letters from people saying, thank you, and just random things here and there, just people just reaching out through my P.O. box. But I also received a gift of these fire starters. And I don't know which subscriber sent them to me, but I do want to thank you. I'm assuming these are like a colored fire starter. So when you put them in the flames, it would make like different colors, and they smell heavenly. So whoever sent this to me, thank you very much. I appreciate you and you taking the time and thinking of me and sending me out these little fire starters. So without further ado, let's bring in the expert on VA loans, because that's what you guys wanted to know. His name is Malcolm Lawson. He has a YouTube channel and he talks about VA loans quite often because Mr. Malcolm here is a veteran of the Air Force. Is that correct?
That is correct. I did 11 years in the Air Force, and I'm here in Maryland. In Maryland, we have a lot of military bases. We got Andrews Air Force Base, got Fort Meade, we got the Annapolis Naval Academy. So the vast majority of my clients are all VA loans and service members. So I'm pretty familiar with the VA loan and kind of all the intricacies of it.
So how long have you been in real estate?
So I got out of the Air Force July 2017, and that's when I started my real estate career. And luckily, with my military background, it's pretty easy to transition and work with all the service members in the area. So 2017, what is that, like 4 years?
Is it only 4 years? Huh. It feels
3 years?
longer.
5 years?
17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Oh, it's 4 years. Okay. That's when I started my YouTube channel. So Malcolm, there was a discussion last week where we spoke about using a VA loan and then using that loan to buy investment properties. Tell us how you do that, because I was like, I'm not going to even pretend I know anything about this, and I know that you've talked about this before on your YouTube channel. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm actually pretty passionate about this, and it's a pretty interesting topic. And a lot of people don't know that you can do this. You can how to actually buy an investment property with a VA loan. So right now, I own 2 houses. I own this house, which is my primary residence, and I own a rental property. Both of the houses are on a VA loan at the same time, and that is possible. It's just kind of tricky. So there's really 2 ways to go about doing it. The first one is that with VA and FHA loans, you can buy up to a 4-unit home. So you could buy a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex as long as one of those homes is your primary residence and you're actually living in it. So that's one way a lot of people will buy an investment property, is they buy a home that has a investment property or a rental property already on it, as long as your primary residence at the time of purchase. The other way, the most common way, is that you can buy a home using the VA loan and then you move out of it and you turn that into a rental property after you move out. And what I love about that is you can also do that strategy with an FHA loan or USDA loan or anything as well. What I love about that strategy is that you get the primary residence interest rate. If you were to buy that home strictly as a rental property, your interest rate may be 5-6%, but because you're buying it as your primary residence, you're getting an interest rate of like 2.7%, 2.5%, and you get to keep that low interest rate over the lifetime of the loan. So that's the primary way people buying investment properties with the VA loan, is it has to be your primary residence at the time of purchase. And I believe you have to sign something saying that you plan on living there for at least 1 year after the purchase.
I was just going to ask that. How long do you have to live there before you can go buy your next property? So there's no penalty. How many properties can you do like that? How many VA loans can you have as one person?
So that's where it gets tricky. That's where it gets complicated. So yes, that's where it gets complicated. All right. So if you were to buy a home as your primary residence with a VA loan, as of last year, there is no cap anymore on how much that you can buy. You can buy $1 million home with a VA loan as long as you have the financing to support that, right? You have the debt to income ratio and everything. But if you're looking at investment properties, that goes out the window. Sorry, if you're looking at having multiple VA loans, that goes out the window. If you have multiple VA loans, there is something known as your VA entitlement. And this is the maximum VA loan amount that you can have. It's what it used to be at the maximum loan you can have, but now it only applies if you have multiple loans, and it's broken down by county. So every county in your state has a different maximum VA entitlement amount. And this is because, it's going to cost more money to live in New York City than it does in Oklahoma or something. So they fluctuate how much you can borrow with that. So if you, let's say the maximum is $500,000 for your county, and you buy a $250,000 house, you live in it for 1 year, then you move out, you can buy another $250,000 house as long as both of those loans combined are below your maximum VA entitlement for that county. So the first home I ever bought was $210,000. Fast forward, like 10 years later, pretty much, I now only owe $170,000 on it. And during that time, the maximum VA entitlement increased. So I was able to buy this house for $400,000. And I was still, those two combined is below my maximum VA entitlement. So that's why I was able to purchase both homes, and they're both on a VA loan.
Well, this is the reason why you need to have a real estate agent that is an expert on this particular topic, or at least a mortgage lender that's really understands the VAs and VA entitlement and what you're due to. Because I've actually heard lenders say you can only have one VA loan. And then when I watched your videos, I was like, that's not what Malcolm says. And then now I understand why, what you're saying. It depends on the entitlement.
Yeah, I've had lenders tell me the same thing. And I'm like, no, I own two homes right now, both on the VA loan. You can do it.
Yeah. Lack of education. Yeah. Mark Erdeman says, hello, fellow vet. I had 12 offers rejected before finding a seller who would work with a VA loan. My count is at 4. Thanks, Kristina, for your awesomeness. I know what you're talking about, Mark, because what has happened in the real estate market is that people will look for the highest and best offer. And in most cases, especially in our area, when you have a VA loan, they're usually just offering what the purchase price is, and they don't have a lot of extra cash on top of it. Even when you offer that extra cash on top of it, for some reason, a lot of real estate agents think, well, it's more difficult to close a VA loan than it is a regular loan. Again, lack of education that we just were talking about. There really is no difference. There's just some things that the VA requires that the seller repair. And then the listing agent's like, you don't want to have to do all that. Just take the conventional loan, even though it's like the same offer or a little bit more. So you don't have to do the hassle. I'm noticing here in my area that's changing a bit. And I'm interested to know, Malcolm, because of your area where you're at, there is so many Air Force bases around your area. Is that something that's been an issue where they're not accepting VA loans?
So we do see that sometimes, that some real estate agents will say, we don't want a VA loan. And like you pointed out, it's because the VA has some minimum requirements. The house has to be move-in ready condition. And so they do a quick little appraisal and they make sure, and sometimes the VA appraisers do require some silly repairs. Most of the time it's okay though. But because we have so many veterans and active duty service members in this area, I feel like that kind of balances out. So it's not a big factor around here. I think a lot of veterans would love to see their home go to another veteran. So because of that, I think that it's not as big of a deal in this area as it may be in some other areas.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be the case. I hate when the people say this, like what happened to Mark. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions? Here we go. Judy's Workshop says, question, I owe $500 in federal and $300 in state taxes. My closing is possibly this week. Does underwriter always find out? Can I pay now, FHA? No. I mean, that would be something you would have to work out with your lender. You can't pay you pay your taxes at the closing table, and that's how the closing costs work. Like their closing costs are your taxes, and you would have to talk to your lender. That's a lender question.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's going to be specific to your area too. Let's see. Vicky says, can you use your VA benefit to refinance a current loan?
Yes, you can. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's my understanding, that you can refinance into a VA loan. And typically you see VA loans are about 0.25% lower on their interest rate than other loans. VA loans, their closing costs are usually lower as well, but a lot of times they add there's an additional fee that they usually tack on to the loan though. So you may have to kind of compare it to refinancing into a conventional loan. But yeah, you can refinance into a VA loan.
Yes. And then I would definitely look at all of the differences between those particular loan packages. For sometimes, and it depends on what's going on in the real estate market at that moment. Sometimes your VA loans are going to be far superior than the other loans that are available to you. But then other times you'll find out, no, the VA loan isn't the best option. You should go FHA or RD. That would be the better option for you. That you need to have a really close relationship with your lender so you can know exactly what the best plan is going to be for you, that loan options for you. It just depends what's going on in the real estate market at that particular time.
One more thing on that. Mm-hmm. So VA loans don't have private mortgage insurance. They don't have PMI. So that may be another factor for you. If you don't have enough equity and your other loans are going to make you pay PMI, it may make more sense to do a VA loan where there is no PMI.
Flex Extreme wants to know, what is 4 + 4?
8. You got it.
We got it today. Debbie wants to know, I bought a VA backed home in the 90s and it was defaulted on due to divorce, and it reduces the future mortgages, I'm assuming. Do you recommend paying it off or get full entitlement? Bought a VA backed home in the 90s and it was defaulted on due to divorce. It reduces the future. I'm thinking of mortgage payments, MTGS. Do you know what that stands for?
No, I don't.
Okay. Debbie, if you could give us a clarity, just put clarity and then what does MTGS. But do you recommend paying it off now to get your full entitlement? If you're about to default on a loan and you could pay it off and then not have to go where it looks like on your credit, that's a lender question too, because sometimes when you pay off something, it looks bad. Where did this money come from? So ask your lender, your local lender, when it comes to this, especially if you're going to buy another property, would it be best for you to do it this way? That has to do with your loan, your debt income ratio. It's going to have to do with other loans you may have out. So that is definitely a lender question if that's what you were meant by that.
And I think I've seen before that if you do default on a loan like that, and let's say the bank loses $20,000, you have to square that up and pay that bank that $20,000 before you can use your VA loan again for a second time. So that may be what she's asking. Should I pay back that money that I owe in order to get my VA entitlement again?
Oh, that makes sense. See, I didn't know that. That's something I learned. I don't
ran into it a couple times.
I don't do a lot of VA loans, but the ones I do, I always have to educate the listing agent going, why, if you're not taking it because it's a VA loan, or why is this home not listed for VA or FHA? And they'll be like, oh, I don't think it qualifies. I'm like, what makes you think it doesn't qualify? Right. But that thing that you were talking about when someone goes into a house to do their VA appraisal, that's very similar to an FHA appraisal too.
Yeah.
They'll come out there and there's random things that need to be fixed, like a drip edge or, silly stuff. It's usually pretty simple stuff that you got to screw in a plate on a switch plate or something like that.
I see that quite often. It just has to be move-in ready condition. As long as it's decent condition, there usually isn't any problem with it.
I did have one where they were like, you have to repaint the windowsill. And I'm like, I went out there and I'm like, really? There was like one little bubble part. And I'm like, oh, for God's sakes. Jennifer Streeter says, can you recommend a lender in Virginia or North Carolina area? I'm actually not affiliated or associated with many lenders throughout the country. I can connected with as any real estate agent throughout the country in pretty much any city, but I'm not connected with many lenders. I wish I could. I'm sorry I couldn't be more helpful there. Do you know anybody out there?
So Virginia is not too far from Maryland. Most lenders can lend in any state. So I mean, if you wanted to get for pretty much any lender, they probably could lend in Virginia. If you're looking for somebody with a VA loan, I could even give you the guy that I've used to purchase my last 2 homes using the VA loan. He's here in Maryland, but I'm pretty sure he can do it in Virginia as well. But yeah, if you wanted to shoot me an email, malcolm@livinginmaryland.com, I could connect you with that lender that I specifically use for my VA loan here in Maryland.
Yeah, and Malcolm has an awesome YouTube channel, which is also his name, Malcolm Lawson. So you can find him there too. Kristina Smallhorn, question: how do I utilize my VA loan as a rental? All I read is said that the VA loan must remain as your primary residence. So this is a Malcolm question. Go for it,
All
Malcolm.
Right. So yeah, you just need to move out and you can turn that into a rental. We see this all the time with service members. They buy a home at one base and then they get relocated to a new base and they turn that first home into a rental property. It's super, super common. You could either move out you yourself into a rental property or move in with a family member, or you can try to get qualified to purchase another home with your lender. And you just need to move out and then you can turn that into a rental property, no problem. You just need to live in there, I believe, for 1 year after you purchase it. At the time of purchase, it needs to be your primary residence.
How long did you live in your house before you bought your second property and turned the other one?
Several years. I was in there for a good while.
Okay. Debbie says, clarify. Yes, it's a future mortgages to get future mortgages. You were right, Malcolm.
Yeah. And really, we'd have to kind of know the numbers, like how much do you owe? Like, do you have to pay them like $20,000 in order to free up your entitlement again? If that's the case and you just go with but you do qualify for an FHA loan or something. Yeah. I don't know. You'd really have to kind of look at the numbers. With the VA loan, the real benefits is 0 down. There's no PMI and interest rates are usually about 0.25% lower, usually just a little bit lower. So you'd have to kind of weigh that compared to how much money you actually need to pay back the bank for your foreclosure.
Question: as realtors, do you prefer conventional over FHA, VA for your clients who are selling their house? Me personally, it's whoever's number is the highest, like who's offering the best offer. And that's, I mean, I don't look at, I don't know how to phrase this in a way that doesn't sound weird. How much is the person putting down, right? So if they're putting 20% down and they're getting a VA loan and they're willing to give you an additional $10,000 over asking price, and then the next person comes in with a conventional loan with 20% down and they're willing to give you $10,000 in closing costs, it's the same thing. It's like, in my opinion, it's the same thing. So I wouldn't present that to my sellers any differently, other than this person's getting a VA loan and this person's getting a conventional loan. It's still a loan. I mean, to me, it's the same. I don't care. You know, can you pay it? Do you have the money? What does your lender letter say? If you're good, then we're good. What do you say? I'm
100% with you on that. We look at what the bottom line is going to be, how much you're actually going to net from that. We're going to look at how long they need to close on the loan. So I will admit, with VA loans right now, big banks like Navy Federal and USAA, they're taking up to 60 days to close on a VA loan, which is pretty crazy. So if you submit an offer saying 60 days, but a conventional offer can close it in 30 days, we may lean towards that one. But if you have a good lenders can still close VA loans in 30 days.
Some people like that. Excuse me. Some people like that extra 60 days because they have to find a house.
Right.
So, I mean, it can work out for their benefit because they need that extra time. So yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The only exception would be if your house is kind of run down and it's kind of a fixer-upper. Mm-hmm. Then I would probably lean towards a conventional, just because the house has to be move-in ready condition. So if you have broken windows and holes in the walls, I already know the VA appraiser is going to ding us for those and make those required repairs. But if your house is like decent and good condition, then I don't really care what type of loan it is. I look at the bottom line and how long they need to close on it.
I haven't done one in a while, but it used to be up until, I don't know. I have to go ask somebody, but you could use a VA loan to buy a manufactured home. And that was one of those things that you were surprised at. You were like, really? You can do that? I'm like, absolutely. But I don't know if that's changed because, they change stuff all the time.
Right.
They change all the time. Hi, my home is currently a VA loan, and I'll be refinancing into a conventional to free my VA to buy another home. Can I do that multiple times or just the once?
Yes, you can do that as many times as you want throughout your lifetime. So that's another way that people, that's actually another way you can buy a rental property, is to buy it using a VA loan, refinance into a conventional loan. That's going to free up your VA entitlement so that you can then go and buy another property. So yeah, refinancing into a conventional loan, that'll free up your VA loan so you can use it again. And you could just rinse and repeat and do that as many times as you want to purchase multiple rental properties using the VA loan.
But don't refinance until you know that PMI is dropped off. You have that 20% down.
So that's the thing. Like, that sounds good in theory, but to refinance a home does cost money a lot of times. So it may not be worth it to spend that money, spend $5,000-$10,000 to refinance it or whatever it may be. But yeah, if you could refinance it or sell it, do whatever you can to free up those entitlements, you can go ahead and use those again.
And we have another question you want to throw up there? Question. Potential buyer buying a home using a VA loan, but the house is getting sold as is. Would that be okay for the seller? Seller wants a lease back and they want to buy another house.
That's where it gets tricky. So if they're selling it as is, it's fine if the house is in great condition. If they're selling it as is because the home needs a lot of work, then you do have to worry about the VA appraiser and if he's going to require any fixes in order for the deal to go through. And let's say he comes in and says, this needs to get fixed, this needs to get fixed, this needs to get fixed. Otherwise, we're not going to approve the loan. The buyer can back out of the contract at that point and get all their money back because of their financial contingency. They don't qualify for that financing anymore. So there is a increased chance of that deal falling apart if there's a lot of little things wrong with the property. Or you could just, try to fix those things ahead of time before the appraiser goes through.
In the state of Louisiana, you'll see that a lot of homes that will say checked as is, but that just means as is after you've had inspections. So you can still have your, like, normally it's about 10-day inspection period. You can have that 10-day inspection period. And even though the house is being sold as is, that just means as is at the time that you close on it. You can still request repairs. The seller still can agree to repairs. And then once you go through that whole process of buying your house, and at the end they've repaired everything that you've requested and you've negotiated all that out, then when you sign at the dotted line, then it's as is, unless they've withheld information about the house that was pertinent, that they knew that there was an old septic tank underneath the house and they didn't tell you, and then your house starts sinking into the ground and a neighbor comes by and you try to get a foundation repair and the foundation repair company says, we've been here 5 times. So then you can sue them. But it's always sold as is. Oh, we got to send a $10 super chat. Dewan301 says, does a rural development loan have the same advantages of a VA loan? With RD, do you still have to pay PMI? Thanks. Yes. Or with an RD loan, you pay PMI. You do. But it has the benefit of, like, you basically roll in everything other than your inspections and your appraisal cost. And it's like 100% financing.
And so is that the USDA rural development?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I think the only other things is I think those usually take a little bit longer to close. A lot of times
it's like a VA.
Yeah, I think even longer. I think a lot of times here you see 60 days to close on a USDA loan versus VAs are 35 to 45 days. And then with the VA loan, your interest rates are a little bit lower, so you probably wouldn't have that with the rural development loan. So maybe whatever the interest rates may be, whatever.
We always have a timeline. So you could call the VA one day I'm sorry, the RD department one day, and it would be 45 days from the day that you sign that contract. But then you can call the next day and it'll be like, we're 60 days out. And then you can call the day after that and they're catching up. So now they're only 40 days. So you can just keep calling to see how many files they have ahead of you before they can give it the little rubber stamp.
Gotcha.
It's like just an underwriting department to make sure everything is in line with the USDA requirements. Lawnmower asks, what happens if you get PCS before 1 year? What does that mean? I don't even know what that means.
Permanent change of station, PCS. Permanent change of station just means you get assigned to a new location. And what would happen is that, oh, well, you get to move out and you can turn that into a rental property sooner, right? The VA understands. I've even seen people purchase a home remotely because they're going to get assigned to a base. Then their orders change before they actually move there, and they just turn that into a rental property immediately. So they've never actually lived in the property at all, because orders change all the time. So yeah, you kind of get lucky, I guess, and you can turn that into a rental property immediately. Like the VA is going to understand. There's not much else you can do.
I'm sure you have to just show a bunch of documentation saying, look, I was stationed here and this is what they said, but now I have to move. I'm sure that's what they do, right?
Yeah. You probably just have to send them a copy of your orders. Like, that's it. What can they do? And I've never really heard of the VA really like following up with people. It's not like they check in on you a year after that to make sure that you actually are still living there. I don't know if they...
I wouldn't want to test it though. I'm not one to like test the limits because I would be the one that got caught.
You have to sign a piece of paper at closing saying that you intend to live there for 1 year. But yeah, if you get orders somewhere else, I've seen that happen, and it's no big deal. They just turn it into a rental property at that time.
Okay, now this is a silly question. So, like, say you bought a house, you're living there for 3 months, and then you get sent overseas for 9 months. And then you decide that when you come back, you're going to sell your house, even though you technically weren't living in the house, but it was still considered your primary residence because of the United States. Would that be a year living there?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty confident. I would say yes. You only have one primary residence, so that
right.
Yeah, I would say yes. That I can't imagine that they would have a problem with that.
Yeah. Or I didn't know if you physically had to be in that house living in it for a year, or I didn't know. That's why I was asking.
And I'm not even sure what the penalties are. If you did just rent it out, even though you weren't there for a year, like they're not going to revoke your loan. I imagine all they're going to do is maybe fine you or penalize you or something like that. I can't imagine it'd be that big of a deal.
I would have to read those papers.
Right.
The light
actually read the papers that you signed. What?
Have you ever done that? Have you ever done it? I tried when I couldn't sleep.
Oh.
I pulled it out of the nightstand. Basically, you want to know what's in your loan papers? If you don't pay, there's not a thing you can do. They can take your home away. That's what it says in a bunch of legalese. Dawn says, if I use my VA loan in this seller's market, once the market shifts to buyers advantage again, can the loan be refinanced? Is it better to buy now or wait? What is your opinion, Mr. Malcolm?
So I think what she's saying is that, home values are up right now. I think she's saying if they dip down, can she refinance at that point? And I think you're saying, like, should I buy a house now or wait for a market correction or something? And I would say I would not count on a market correction. My personal feeling is that the home prices are going to continue to go up. That's kind of my personal take on it. I think we're seeing inflation right now. I don't know if we're going to enter into a buyer's market anytime soon. And so if you're saying if you buy it at a seller's market, so you're buying it like $500,000 and then the home value drops at $400,000, can you refinance? You could but you'd have to pay that extra $100,000 difference between that. Like you really wouldn't want to. You'd have to come up with that money.
I think a lot of people think there's going to be a big dip in the real estate market soon because they keep talking about, there's, foreclosures are up and the forbearance is going to end and more people are going to not be able to pay their mortgage. One thing to understand that if these people, there's 2.2 million people that are currently in forbearance. let's just say every single one of them doesn't plan on selling their house, or they're just going to let it go back to the bank, which most likely, if they're in that situation, they're going to try to sell it because they can make pretty good money on it. They can cover the amount that they owe plus real estate fees, probably gain a little bit of equity as well. But let's just say they don't even do that. It takes an average of 427 days average, 427 days average for a bank to foreclose on a property and put it back on the market.
Oh, wow.
That's an average. That some foreclosures can take eons beyond that time, because if you're going through any kind of chapter 11 or 7 or any kind of debt relief, then that causes an issue with foreclosing on the house. If you're getting divorced, that is an issue of getting a house to put on foreclosure back on the market. There's all sorts of things that happen. You're not going to see this like big scope of houses that are hit the market. And let's just say they did. In most markets, we have a housing shortage that's exponential. I mean, we're still like several months behind of what we should be having right now. Houses sell before you even can think about it. And even though the housing market has slowed down, it's not really slowed down. If we had erased 2020, if we erased it, this would be considered an extremely hot market. But if you're comparing it to 2020, yeah, it's less than it was last year, but that doesn't mean that it isn't a super hot market.
Yeah. And what's crazy is that the pandy, I think is what you call it.
Yeah, the pandy. That's what I call it.
The pandy is poking his head out of the hole again. We're seeing increase in numbers. We're seeing a lot of states saying that they may make mask mandates again, and we're seeing a whole lot of issues emerging again with that. So how the heck does that play into everything? Could we see another mini recession or something like that? We don't know.
And that's the whole thing. This thing is such there's nothing in history that can reflect of what the future might hold, because this is I'm so sick of hearing this, unprecedented times. I just want to wake up for a whole month and not hear we're living in unprecedented times. I want to really have a really boring, nothing happening, but like great news stories for at least a week, because I'm sick of unprecedented weather. Yeah. I'm sick of unprecedented weather, unprecedented fires, unprecedented earthquakes, I'm just tired of it all. Can we just have normal for a little bit?
Yeah.
Unprecedented housing market. So Catherine says, do you know who I can contact with a VA to report a non-disclosed latent damages that were not caught up by the appraiser, but cost us over $8,000 in repairs? Ooch.
So, so in Maryland, we call those latent defects, and a latent defects is a defect with the property that's not easily discoverable. So if there's mold and somebody just puts drywall over it to hide it, so that wouldn't necessarily fall on the appraiser. I mean, unless you're saying that you think that the appraiser should have found that issue. But if it's I don't know. So you're saying that you feel the appraiser should have found that issue, they didn't, and now it costs you money. Maybe you could sue the previous homeowners. I don't know if the appraiser has any liability in that, because you also had a home inspection.
That, like, here, that wouldn't be the appraiser, that would be the home inspector.
Yeah.
The appraiser they're just looking from the outside, and they're checking to make sure that the outlets work and stuff like that, but they're not really they're not pulling back walls or anything like that. The home inspector is liable for that. And the homeowner, the previous homeowner, you could sue the living bejesus if you have to prove the fact that you knew. Like, let's just say, Catherine, that there was a problem with mold, and you're like, holy crap, we have to take down all this wall. And then the neighbor comes over and is like, oh, you taking that mold out from the wall? And they're like, yeah. And then you call a mold company over, and they're like, yeah, we've been over here, and we told them it was going to cost $10,000 to remove it, but now it's even grown, so it's going to cost you $20,000. So you get statements from all those people, you get yourself an attorney, and you're going to have yourself one heck of a lawsuit, and you'll win. You'll win. So here we go. Question: I have a property for sale in Kansas City. It's been on the market for 23 days now with no offers. I've lowered the price 3 times already. Should I lower it again or just be patient? I would look for what is average days on the market in your area. And I would also like pull up your comps for the last 3 months and see what other houses in your area have sold for in the last 3 months and how long that they were on the market. Now, if they've only been on the market for 4 days and they were slightly above where you're at, you may want to take a look and just see what's going on with your own home. Maybe you need a fresh coat of paint. Maybe you need to do a little flowers in the front yard, just make it a little bit more appealing. I wouldn't know until I saw your house. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, usually price is the biggest factor. That's the biggest thing. But also, I would make sure that your marketing is good. Make sure you have professionally done photography. If
Yes.
your real estate agent came in and took 5 pictures on his phone and that's his photos, that could be a really big factor right there. And yeah, like you said, look at what the average days on market is for your area. If you're in a more rural area, maybe it is 30 days. If you're in the heart of Kansas City, it's probably a lot quicker than that. Yeah, so I'd say marketing, make sure your marketing's really to see good pictures, and make sure that, your price, it may be lowering your price again, maybe not a bad idea. It doesn't say how much you lowered the price by either.
I would ask your real estate agent, where are you marketing my house? Are they only putting it on Zillow and realtor.com? Where else are they advertising your home? Are they putting it on social media sites? Because believe it or not, I know that sounds totally insane because my parents were like, people sell their houses on Facebook. I'm like, when you have a good ad put together for Facebook, yes, houses sell through Facebook and Instagram and everything else. And I still do this, even though the market's been really hot. I still create beautiful listing videos for each one of my houses where I have a voiceover and do the whole 9 yards. So see if your real estate agent is doing a video that they're putting out on social media sites that will help advertise your home better. Do you agree?
I agree. I do. So right now I am doing photos, video, and 3D tours for all of my properties. And the video actually gets uploaded directly to Zillow. So for it's a Zillow 3D tour, which supposedly helps the ranking on the Zillow search for the property. But that's my standard is professional photos, professional video, professional 3D model of the house. It usually costs me about $400, $500 for a bigger house, maybe.
Talisha Brown says, can you build a new decent home with an FHA loan for $180,000? Preferably with brick, not half brick, half wood. This would be dependent on where you live.
Yes.
And it used to be in my area, you could have easily done that, And I guess when you get out a little bit further out, rural parts of Louisiana, you can find them. But usually the back, like the very back is hardy plank. The very back end, like they'll have 3 sides of brick, and then the very back is hardy plank. And you could have done that with an FHA loan. One of our biggest builders here is DSLD, and they make some of the best energy efficient homes. They're award-winning energy efficient homes, and they're also like they start at the first time home buyer price. Their homes do, and then they go all the way up.
Yeah, I mean, same thing here in Maryland. There are some parts of Maryland where $180,000 you can have yourself a really nice house. There's other parts like the city of Annapolis, you can't even buy land for $180,000. And
I know.
And about the brick, like the brick is just a facade. The brick is just kind of fake. It's not really what the house is made out of. Most houses are all wood. It's just a fake layer of bricks on the outside. So that's something you could change down the road if you needed to.
Well, like a veneer, the brick veneer. Because if you look at it, they frame it up. They put that plastic. Was it Vitec? Is what they call it, or is that Vitec? I think that's what they call it. So it's a fiberglass. Looks like rubber or plastic. I can't talk today. It's like a plastic sheet. Yeah, like a sheet that they put around it, and then they tack it on there, and then they throw the bricks right on top of it. Jeremy Knight says, Malcolm!
Jeremy!
Too bad he can't say Malcolm correctly.
Oh, no.
Good question. Does a buyer have the right to see the previous home inspection report? Does the buyer have the right to see the previous home inspection report? Absolutely not. Nope. Yeah. It belongs to the previous buyer. Now, you can ask the previous buyer. You can request it. Ask them if they don't mind you seeing it. I've had it I've had this happen where a home inspector had been to the house and he's like, I inspected this before. And then the guy said, well, can I have that inspection? He said, no, but I will contact the person that had the inspection before and let them ask them. So the previous buyer said, fine, you can look at it. But then it was really good because he could compare it between the two buyer, like since there's been inspected previously, like you'd see if they fixed those kinds of things, which actually worked out for the benefit of the new buyer because he knew that he had fixed the air conditioning unit and he had fixed we have something called it's like fake stucco. It's synthetic stucco, and it causes a huge moisture problem because between fake stucco, the synthetic stucco, there is a foam that's in between it. And since we're so humid here, that foam acts like a sponge and it just keeps soaking up water. And over time, it keeps expanding, but it doesn't expand in the way where it cracks the stucco. It expands into the walls. So it can cause a real moisture problem. So anyways, that's what happened with this particular inspection. And the guy had fixed it. So it was good to know because he was able to compare both reports.
Yep.
So we've gotten another. Tyvek, thank you.
Oh,
thank you. Maybe I've had too much sugar today. Lawnmower even said Tyvek. Tyvek, everybody knows. Tyvek. Yes, Tyvek. Yes, I know. Do we have any more questions?
It's Tyvek, Kristina. Tyvek.
Yes, thank you, Malcolm. Oh wow, could have done it without you. Here, I'm going to bless up, Eddie. I'm just going to go ahead. Oh, Eddie was going to do the same one. We're ready to purchase using a developer's lender to get the incentives. The lender required my husband, the vet, and I to occupy. I thought the only vet had to occupy. I was going to join him in later. I was going to join. So they're requiring both of you to live there?
Yeah, that I'm not familiar with. I always thought I think the VA's requirement is just that the vet has to be there.
Right.
But if maybe he doesn't have enough financing to qualify for it, you need both incomes to qualify for it. If that's the case, then maybe your lender could say that it's. So you're saying that you want your husband to move in first and then you to move in later on.
I just tell them that you were. Like, what are they going to do? How are they going to check that?
Right.
Like, yeah, I was just there yesterday. I'm on a plane.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I'm not sure.
Wasn't the previous owner wouldn't the previous owner be the new owner?
Previous buyer.
Current owner. Previous owner be the new buyer. Just saying. Whatever.
Previous owner.
He's just messing with us. We guys, all right, Jeremy.
It's a riddle. I can't solve it.
Yeah, I know. You're working with two dyslexic creative people. You can't do this.
We can't even get our time zones lined up right half the time.
Question. I have 3 rental properties in Sedona, Arizona. Oh, what a beautiful area. Would be changing them into Airbnb be more of a hassle than it's worth for additional property? Are you talking about this for a VA? Because I don't know. Like, do you have 3 of them as a VA loan? If it's just a regular standard loan and you are in Sedona, Arizona, and you want to turn them into an Airbnb and it's not like a big problem like it is here in New Orleans, yeah, like absolutely 100% turn them into a rental property. Income producing properties is probably one of the best ways you can gain wealth in the United States. That's why big corporations are doing it. That's why they're sucking up all the real estate. Question. If I was to buy in Austin, oh, too bad Jeremy left. Will there be a way to know what happened to potential houses during the winter crisis? Yes. I mean, here it's property disclosure. They have to disclose that at 100%. They have to disclose. Not only do they have to disclose if they had damages, they have to disclose here in Louisiana. They have to disclose how much it cost to the repairs and when they actually had it repaired. And they would, here in Louisiana, they would have to specify mold remediation because we have a slight mold here problem here. What would be in Malcolm?
Yeah, that's not the case here in Maryland. So you're saying if what do they have to disclose? Like every single time they've ever made repairs to the property? in the future. Like here in Maryland, if there's an issue and they fix it, it's fixed. So they don't need to disclose that they fixed an issue.
Nope. Here, if you've repaired, like if you had a leak, an air conditioning unit, right? And that drip line was full of mold, and then you got a stain on the ceiling, and then you replaced the drywall above where that stain was, and you patched it back up. You have to disclose there's a patch in the ceiling or in the living room. Wow. Because there was a mold. Yeah, you have to tell them everything. And I always tell my clients, tell everything, even when you changed out a light bulb, like over disclose so much that they are comfortable with what they're buying. And then for my own house, I have an envelope folder this thick full of everything that's ever been done to this house, every termite inspection, everything. So that when I close on the house, I'm like, here you go. here's the house Bible. Everything that's been done. Question. Can you refinance a primary home mortgage with rental mortgage in forbearance? Can you refinance a primary home mortgage with a rental mortgage in forbearance?
So you're saying that you own a home, it's your primary residence, you're in forbearance, and you want to wait. So the mortgage doesn't.
There's no such thing as a rental mortgage.
Right. Yeah. So you just keep your mortgage and you just move out. Your rental insurance, your homeowner's insurance would change to a rental insurance, but you could just keep your mortgage. All the loans, you just have to be your primary residence at the time of purchase. So you most likely can just move out, turn it into a rental property, and you don't have to tell your mortgage company at all, except for the homeowner's insurance aspect.
Now, some people that I've spoken to have a job now that actually is because of the whole, like, they took forbearance, they were laid off from their job, they ended up taking a job that's not making them as much money, and they're kind of like the clock's ticking. They're a little nervous. And I told them, and I'm telling everybody that's listening, if you're in that situation, your bank, your lender, doesn't want to foreclose on you. Yeah. Actually ask them how you can restructure your loan so that way you can continue to pay on it, because they would much rather do that than foreclose on you, because it's such a headache and a hassle. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, they don't want. It's really a hassle. If anything, the last housing market crash taught them is foreclosures suck. They don't want to do it. They want to get them off their books as much as possible. Catherine says, is it normal for a VA loan to allow the spouse on the title of the house just because they're not on the loan? It happened to me. It's normal here. The spouse, yeah, it's normal here.
I've seen that before as well. And what happens is the spouse needs to add herself to the title after the fact. So after you move in, you could add yourself to the title later on down the road. But I have seen that.
In Louisiana, you can do that at the closing table. Like all the loan paperwork is in the husband's name or the wife's name. And then at the closing table, the title papers are in both of the couple's names. Every state's going to be a little bit different. But yeah, you can totally do that. It's normal. TW says, to obtain a VA loan in a condo development, what is the maximum percentage of renters allowed? Ooh, that's a good question, because VA, I believe it's 28%. That's what it used to be. What is it in your area?
I don't have a lot of condos in my area, so I've never run into that before. I don't know. One thing we do have here, which is a pain in the neck, is the delinquency rate. Do you guys have that where you're at? So what that means is, let's say you have a community and 25% of the homes in the community get foreclosed on, then the VA won't allow a loan in that community because they think that there's an increased chance of the loan getting foreclosed on. So we have to I've seen loans get denied because of a high delinquency rate within a community, which is really a pain in the neck. So
I bet that was terrible after the last housing crash. Good Lord, especially in Florida. Holy crap. Sure.
Yeah, I have no idea how they manage that. But I see that in Maryland sometimes. It's a real pain in the neck. I don't know about the renter percentage, though.
Huh. Interesting. Question. Can a government contractor working overseas with no spouse stateside use the VA loan to buy a home stateside?
I don't know. Let's talk to your lender about that one.
I would think that this is totally just me thinking. This is what I would think. If your base in your home address, let's just say, is in North Carolina, I can't see why you couldn't buy a house in North Carolina. But
Right.
if everything that you have as your permanent address is in North Carolina and you want to buy in California, I think that's where the problem comes in, because you're not stationed there in the first place.
I think
that's what my common sense would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if it's your primary residence, and let's say you're going to be going from stateside to or overseas to a stateside assignment in like 3 months, then yeah, you could definitely purchase it that way.
Rigo says, with all the talk about currency collapse, would this cause further price increases?
Yes.
Okay, so the value of the dollar today is going to be less tomorrow. And you're already seeing inflation happen everywhere. And even though, let's just say, the value of the dollar gets less, that's all it can do is increase the prices of everything, including housing, including rentals. Everything goes up. So I think, what is it, Venezuela? There wasn't it that they were just throwing the money in the street because it was so worthless. You could be a million. Everybody was a millionaire, but it didn't mean anything.
You need a wheelbarrow full of money to buy anything.
Yes. Question: do you have to disclose arguments with the neighbors? No. And in some states now, and then this isn't in every state, but in our state, you don't have to. If someone died in the house in California, you have to disclose it. Here in Louisiana, you do not have to disclose it, and you don't have to disclose if it's haunted. Now we have our fair share of homes here in Louisiana that are certified haunted houses, and you could actually go and get the map of haunted houses, but you have to have that. You have to have an accredited haunted house. You can't just call them up and say, "Hey, my house is haunted. I want to be on the registry as a haunted house." They have to verify your home is truly a haunted home. Isn't that wild?
That's pretty wild.
But you don't have to disclose it. You don't have to disclose it. But yeah, there is some weird laws. Like every state has, like, if somebody died in there, or if it's haunted, you might have to disclose it depending on the state. Old Man Dan says, we are looking at buying land on several possibilities have steel buildings on them. What are your thoughts on converting a steel building into a dwelling to save on construction costs? Old Man Dan, my video coming out on Tuesday is about steel buildings and turning them. They're called barndominiums. They gave them a fancy name, but it's very common here. People do it all the time. The problem is getting the financing. So you might have a problem with the financing, and because it is considered a metal building, you're going to have to check with your local area that allows you to see if they will allow you to turn a metal building into a permanent residence. They may tell you that you have to call it a game room. They may say that you can have it as an extra house, but you can't have it like a kitchen in it. So, just follow what the rules are in your specific area. If you go and talk to your local county officials, they're pretty helpful on this kind of thing. The one thing I will tell you as a tip, just make sure that you insulate that thing correctly, and make sure that where did he go? Oh, Malcolm disappeared. Anyways, you're going to make sure that the foundation can support everything you want to put on the inside of the house. So you may want to talk to a structural engineer that is familiar with turning metal buildings into the type of building that you can live in. So I don't know where Malcolm went. I think his camera went out. Question: why is there not so many 4 to 5 bedroom condos being built? Condos are generally meant for smaller families. I mean, like, most people that purchase them and live in them for an extended period of time are, people with either like 1 or 2, 3 members in their family. They don't usually have multiple members of their family. But I'll tell you one thing that's become increasingly popular here in Louisiana and throughout the country is people buying as a family group a large home. So they will buy a 8-bedroom house, but everybody in the family is putting in their income to purchase it. So everybody, the mom, the dad, the kids, are all signing on the mortgage payment So they all are pitching in and they all have a little section of the house. This idea for me sounds like I want to kill myself, unalive myself. I didn't say that. I would not want, I do not want to. I know, probably I'll edit that out. But that idea of moving in with my parents and everybody else in my family, there's a reason why you move out at a certain age and never go back. Like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. All right, let's see. Next question. Where does fire hide? Says question. I'll reword. I have 2 mortgages. Can you refinance your primary home mortgage when a rental property mortgage is in forbearance? No. If you have both of those under your credit, now if your rental property is under a business name, yes, you can. But if your home is not, if it's under one social security number and it's not under a business name, your debt to income is going to be bad, and so is your credit score. So what do you say?
I'd say probably. I'm probably going with your answer of no. That's a lender question right there. That's a complicated situation. I don't know much about having 2 mortgages on one property.
But yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. And it'll also depend if you're under an LLC or just your social security number. You're really going to need to talk to a lender. Abe says, follow up. The negative feedback so far has been no driveway for parking and outside paint color bright blue. Should I pay to change the color or just lower the price? Me personally, a coat of paint hides a multitude of sins, is what I've always said. Paint it. I'd paint it. Like temporarily take it off the market and repaint the sucker. If it just all comes down to the color of the outside of the house, paint it and put in some annuals that are bright colors. Boom. I bet you get that sold much quicker.
Yeah. Curb appeal is pretty important, honestly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I'd paint it. A can of paint is so cheap. Do it. Make it happen. 2021. BoyleNet says, please like and subscribe to support the channel. All right. TW says, if a veteran retires overseas, can they obtain a VA loan to purchase a rental property in the U.S.?
Nope. Has to be your primary residence at the time of purchase. So they'd have to move back to the U.S. for at least 1 year to live in that property and then move back overseas.
But what if you're stationed in, like, what if you're stationed in South Carolina and then you're overseas at the time, but you want to purchase a house? You can't do that? So you have to actually physically be in the United States in order to purchase it?
No. Okay. So let's say you live overseas and you're going to get stationed in North Carolina. You could purchase a house like a month before your PCS. Like we see that quite often. And then you PCS and then you move into that house. But you sign a paper saying that this is going to be your primary residence. It can't be a rental property at the time of purchase. So I think you have to at least have an intention of moving into it.
Right. Don't be sneaky.
Yeah.
Because you'll get caught. Stefan says, do you think this large increase in house prices is ruining the future for our younger generations, 22 to 30-ish, that just started their career? It's hard to find a decent 2-story in Orlando.
I do.
I'll go ahead and give your opinion and I'll give you mine.
I saw this report not that long ago that like the previous generation, the baby boomer generation, they would have to pay 2 times their annual income to purchase a home. Nowadays, people are spending more like 5 times their annual income just to purchase a home. And it absolutely is hurting people. I've built a lot of my net worth and in equity in my homes, for my homes appreciating in value. And yeah, if I didn't have any of that equity, like that would really suck. That would definitely hurt my finances quite a bit. Yeah, I think making homes unaffordable is going to have an impact for generations to come and for decades to come. The unaffordability of homes, I think, is a really big issue. And I think that wealth gap is just getting bigger and bigger.
I feel like the powers that be with the deepest pockets have no intent for any average American to ever be able to afford a home ever again. The American dream for my kids, I believe, of owning a home is squashed. Unless they have like super amazing jobs, but I'm talking about if they were just the average income, the average American income cannot afford the average American home. And every time somebody argues with me about this, I'm like, what are you talking about? You're on a completely different planet than the rest of the world, because the average American makes $68,000 a year. And sure, if you lived in rural Kansas, yeah, you can buy yourself a house. But then you're saying that, if they want something more, where's all the jobs at? They're in cities where it costs more to live there, and they want those better jobs. So it's like this never ending cycle. I don't believe that it's going to be affordable for my kids whenever they get older. My daughter is 18 and I have another one that's 15. I don't see how they can. So we're holding on to our rental properties, and that's going to be our gift to them when they get to adulthood. You do what you want to do with this rental property. You can either live in it or continue to rent it. It's now yours. Create an LLC. It's now your house. That's your gift. I think that was like, now that I know all that, so I'm like, boy, I think that's the smartest thing I could ever done for my kids. Question: is there a VA lender who will do a land purchase, construction loan, and then a VA mortgage in one closing package?
I think so. So what you're saying, okay, so you're saying that you've talked to lenders and they want you to purchase the property first and then get a separate loan for the house, and you're asking if you do that all in one loan? Ooh, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. Yeah.
All right, so there's something called an interim loan. So you have so the builder can't basically take out too many draws. So what they do is they have you, buy the piece of land, and then at the end of the build period, which the builder only can take like 1/3 out for the building materials, another third out when it's halfway done, and then the last when it's completely finished and has been approved by the county, then they can take their last draw. At that moment, that's when you go in and you close, where you roll in the new construction and the land itself into one mortgage. I can't see why you wouldn't be able to do that with a VA. That is going to be something that is going to be specific to your area. I would check with your lender and see if that's something that's possible, but I can't see why it wouldn't be. Quiet.
Yep. I agree. I've never helped anybody buy land and a home like that before.
Oh, you don't do custom builds? Have you never done a custom built home?
No, I never have. We have new home construction community, and you're buying the lot and the house together. I've never helped anybody buy a lot of land and then help them with the builder.
Well, we live out here in Louisiana. We got a lot of us that got some family land. So they find themselves a piece of dirt. They buy it, then they find themselves a builder, and that's how they do it. Will the VA let you buy the land and put a mobile home on it? And this is what I was saying at the beginning of the live stream. So the VA always used to finance manufactured homes. I haven't checked on it recently, but there hasn't been an issue on it, other than the fact that they with the VA, it used to be that it had to be built after 1983. With some other ones, it has to be built after 1976, because that's when it was in HUD standards. But they've actually even increased that more because of building codes and durability. So manufactured homes built after, I think it was right after Andrew. I think that is 1986. They are built to better hurricane standards and windproofing and hurricane strapping, and that's when they really took a big leap in building manufactured homes much better. All right, Eddie, where'd you go? Kristina, but can we afford? But we can afford the modular homes in your videos you showcase, right? Well, that depends on which ones you're looking at. So the boxable home is about $50,000. So if you were to buy a piece of land that was $50,000, then you would be able to get a mortgage on it. Here's the issue. Now, if the piece of land that you were going to buy, that $50,000 modular home, the little boxable, let's say it was only $10,000, you wouldn't be able to get a mortgage on it, because any federally backed loan and conventional loan, it has to be $65,000 or above in order to get a federally backed loan. You can't find anybody to do it for less than that unless you're going to go and get a personal loan, and it can cost you extra on the old interest rates. Sorry if you talked about this before, but when do you see prices coming back to normal again, and will they continuously be propped up? What's your opinion, Malcolm?
They're never coming back down. Look, if you look at home values over like the last 100 years, it is just this way, straight up. Home values don't come down very often. 2008 was a fluke. That was a once in a lifetime thing. Home values are going to continue to go up for a long time, like on the macro scale, I think. And as we see especially if you're looking at the home value compared to the US dollar, as we see the US dollar losing its value, home values are going to go up relative to that US dollar. I don't see them coming down anytime soon in a big way anyway.
Well, and I've said this many times, and I'll always admit when I'm wrong. When I saw the beginning of this pandy dandy happening, I was like, who the heck is going to want people in their houses looking at houses? And I thought for sure sellers were going to take a bath during this time, because who wants to go walk around in strangers' houses? Who knows what germs they have? And I couldn't have been more wrong. I could have been more wrong. And I, analyze and adjust. So then I really started digging deeper and saying, well, where are these people coming from? And how much are they willing to put down? And the most surprising thing for me to come out of this whole thing is how much cash people really have. That has been shocking to me. And it isn't just people from California. It's not people from all, like, they always want to blame the poor Californians for increasing prices. And in some cases, yes, that is the case. But there's lots of people that are willing to just give up their savings account to win a house. Like $30,000. They're like, yeah, I can pay that overage. Like, holy cow. But the people that are buying right now are hyper qualified. Like, they have really good jobs. They've been saving for years. They have a nest egg. They have a 401k. They have diversified their income. The buyers that are buying right now are very, very qualified. What would you say, Malcolm?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that we're seeing a lot of people FOMOing into the market, right? Fear of missing out. They're seeing like, wow, these home values are increasing $10,000, $20,000 in a year. I wish I had that asset. And I think people are jumping in the bandwagon just so that they can have an asset that's going to appreciate as well. This is what kind of drives a lot of markets like Bitcoin. People jump into Bitcoin because they think it's going to keep going up. And I think that's a big factor why we're seeing a lot of people jump in. And like you said, yeah, I'm pretty surprised by how qualified a lot of the buyers are these days. And a lot of the buyers that are not very qualified, that they need closing cost assistance, they're the ones who are really struggling getting an offer accepted right now. It used to be every single offer had closing cost assistance to the buyer from the seller to cover their closing costs. Now it's none. None. I haven't seen one with closing cost assistance in months at this point. So it really is just the most qualified buyers are getting the deals right now. And the average person, they're really struggling to get their offer accepted. Actually, a lot of those people have kind of dropped out of the market. I've had so many buyers drop out from buyer's fatigue that they get tired of submitting offers.
Well, I think this is where my channel comes in, and I hope more people start thinking about different ways to look at housing. Yeah. So there's all sorts of proven durable homes that can be built for the average American to afford. I was looking at these monolithic dome homes. They're my favorite right now. Tiny homes is another option. We can look at manufactured homes again, modular homes like boxables. They can be stacked on one top of each other, one right on top of each other. They can be built quickly. And then you can turn people that were renters into property tax paying people. And not only that, they can build wealth. It's the smartest thing you can do to really prop up the economy is make more affordable housing options for the average American. And a lot of places will say, well, we don't have enough room. And I call BS, because there's a million malls around the area that are dying. Put residential housing in there. There's tons of commercial space that's dying. Put residential properties there. But that's if I rule the world. And if you want to rule the world, contact your local county's zoning area and tell them, stop with the commercial real estate and make it for residential housing. It's dying. Your commercial area is dying. Let's make it for residential. If you have a $250,000 in cash, is it better to build or buy with that money right now?
My opinion is right now, I don't want to, I want to have as much debt as I can. Not financial advice, but me personally, I want to have debt. I'm okay with that. You know, what we're seeing now is 5% inflation this last quarter, according to the Fed. That's the latest numbers, 5%. And Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Fed, talked to Congress, and he said that number is almost certainly low. So it's probably even higher inflation rate than that. And what's really interesting about inflation is, let's say you take out $250,000 in debt to buy a home. At 5% inflation rate, that debt essentially just got reduced by 5%. As we see inflation, your debt decreases relative to the US dollar. So a lot of these big corporations, they take out $100 million in debt and pay it back on like a 50-year timeline, because they know over those 50 years, their debt gets reduced because of inflation. The federal debt, the national debt, that gets reduced as the US dollar decreases in value relative to its buying power. So me personally, yeah, I want to take out as much debt as I can. And interest rates are so freaking low right now. You can get a 3% loan. You could invest that $250,000 in your 401k or the S&P 500 and get like a 7, 8, 9% return on that every single year. So there's just better financial investments than avoiding 3% interest rate on a mortgage, my opinion.
I do want to tell you that I read an interesting article that was talking about how homes are becoming unaffordable for the average American, and that they were talking about doing mortgages for 70-year mortgages, 6-year mortgages, 40-year mortgages, which they tested this 40-year mortgage deal a while back. I'm going to tell you right now, if you have kids that are going to be growing up and they're saying, oh, I'm just going to do a mortgage for 60 years. I'm going to tell you why this is the worst idea on the planet, because those first 30 years that they're paying down their mortgage, they're not paying diddly squat. And they're going to be hoping that the increase of the market keeps going up the way it is in order to actually make some kind of earning off of that. I hope that this never becomes a thing, because it's like they want you chained to debt to the day you die. 60-year mortgages. I was like, this is ludicrous. This is a really dumb idea. And then when I saw the payment difference between those 60, 50, 40, it wasn't even that significant. It wasn't significant enough to go, you know what, maybe I should do that. But I guess if you were living paycheck to paycheck, that $400 difference would make a difference in your life. But holy cow, I was like, that is so dumb. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I would jump on that opportunity.
60 years? I mean, for a young kid starting out, absolutely not. Dumb.
Right. You're never paying it off. Yeah. It's like
never.
You're never paying it off. But you know, so 60 years. So let's go back 60 years, and how much is a $500,000 house worth 60 years ago? Like $30,000. So if you could have bought that house for $30,000 and held on to it now, and now it's worth $500,000. So you're right that it's a gamble on the appreciation. You're going to have pretty much zero debt pay down, but you're hoping that the properties are going to continue to appreciate in value, which I think that they will.
Malcolm, you know as well as I do, people move within 4 to 5 to 7 years. Honestly, they are never going to pay that. All they're doing is basically renting the house from the bank, and they're actually probably paying more every time they go to buy another house because of closing costs and everything else. That is the dumbest thing. Dumb. I hope that 60 dumb. Kristina says no. And that's why I think that the affordable housing options, it should become more of a thing, especially in local areas. Continued, since the builder is not purchasing the lot, building the house, and then selling it to me as one deal, I may have to do multiple closings. Any advice? you can do the multiple closings on the same day. So you can close out with your lender, with your builder, and then walk straight from your builder over to your lender and then roll those two together. So that's a lender question, but then it shouldn't be an issue. It happens here all the time in Louisiana. That's what we do. They pay out the builder's done. Then you go to the next closing and it's all in one. It's like a 30-year mortgage. You can get FHA, you can get a conventional loan. It's all done at once. I live in Louisiana. Know any lenders? I do. Letitia Sharp. Listen, contact me. info@Kristina with a K, Kristina, Smallhorn.com. Reach out to me and I will hook you up with my favorite lender of all time. His name's Ryan LaRussa. I have used him for the last 11 years of my 14 years in real estate. And there isn't been a time that he hasn't been able to get a loan closed. And matter of fact, I had people that couldn't get closed with another lender. I said, bring the package over here. And then he was able to get them closed. He's the best. Follow up to the $250,000 in cash. If you can't take out a loan due to not being currently being employed or taking a year off to buy your properties, it's better to build or buy right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's tricky. A lot of lenders, they do need 2 years of income in order to qualify you on a loan. So it's better to build or buy right now. I guess it's your preference, really. I think that you kind of pay a premium when you build brand new. And especially if you can custom design it, you may get a better deal. Maybe able to get more square footage if you buy a used house or a pre-lived in-house, but it's kind of up to you.
Okay, this is one of those things when you have to know their market, right? So during the crash last time, builders would have given you the shirt off of their back and everything that they owned for you to buy their house. They could not wait. Like there were the things that builders were willing to give up just to close out a neighborhood. It was fantastic. But right now with the cost of building materials and people walking off the job all the time because they're unwilling to work in these conditions at the currently where they're doing twice as much work for half as much money. They're like really, there's a lot going on in the building world, and they're waiting so long for materials like asphalt shingles and roofing tiles and all sorts of stuff. If it was me, I would not build a house to save my life right now, unless I was buying a kit home, which everything comes in that package, one shot and you're done. All the building materials are in the box basically, and then you can put it together. But I wouldn't build a house right now.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. There's too many factors of things of waiting. You got to wait for people, and then you can have subcontractors that you've already hired up. And then they could just kind of quit and go to another place. Sometimes it happens here where, there'll be like a big storm in Texas. So a lot of the subcontractors that you had, they just pick up and go to Texas because they know that they can do a bunch of work in Texas at once, one right after another. So yeah, no. Yeah. Kristina says no. Buy or pre-owned, in my opinion, because you get it done quicker.
Yeah, get a t-shirt. Kristina says no.
Kristina says no. That would be a good t-shirt. I should make that t-shirt. What do you guys think?
Kristina says no 60-year loans. No new construction.
How many red flag is a flip house with improvements not done using permits? Not having permits? Red flag. It depends on the type of improvements that were done. Now, if they just added a little deck on the back of the house, that's fine. But if it was a deck with a balcony, not fine. Like that's not fine. You really need to have that permitted and coded correctly.
Kristina says no.
Kristina says no. Kristina says no. But we have lots of flippers here. Yeah. We have very few that do a crappy job because it doesn't take long for word to get out that these flippers suck. So what about your area?
Yeah, we have a lot of flippers in the area, and they're a vital part of the ecosystem, right? They buy these old homes from the 70s that have never been updated, and they fully renovate them, and 90% of them do great jobs. The house that I bought, somebody flipped it, and I've been here a year now. I'm super happy with it. So I have no problem with flipped houses. Permits are kind of a pain in the neck, and some people avoid them. Not because they're doing shady work, just because they're a pain in the neck and they don't want to have that inspector have to come out there and do all these stupid requirements. I'm about to build a shed. I'm not planning on getting a permit for it because they say I can't build within 20 feet of my property line, which I think is stupid. So I'm just going to go and build it anyway without the permit. Permits are just pain in the neck sometimes.
Well, I guess it depends on what you're permitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you're doing an addition,
electrical.
If you're putting an addition on the house, you better is poop know that has been permitted, because you're going to be causing yourself a big old headache if you're just not been permitted. So have you ever had to deal with a probate or in selling houses with any of your clients? Do you know who is really good with this? Silly Mommy in For Life is my client, Michelle Belisari. And this is her jam. It's Michelle, and then her last name is Bellisari. She is the bomb diggity bomb when it comes to probate properties. And if you have any questions for her about that, talk to her. She will answer anything. I've had her on the live stream before. Go ahead, Eddie. How do lenders view income from pensions, Social Security, 401k, IRA, and savings? Zero debt.
If it's income, if it's residual income every single month, I think they just look at your debt to income ratio. I'm pretty sure they can count that as income. I get a little bit of VA disability every single month, and my lender counts that as income.
Even if you get child support, it's considered a little bit of that is considered income. So and alimony, of course, is income. So if you're getting a TW, you're getting alimony, that's considered income as well. So I've had you here for 1 hour and 20 minutes. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Malcolm Lawson for answering all the VA questions that he can answer. And yes, indeed, you can get a VA loan and then turn that into a rental property and then use your VA benefits to buy your next property while still holding on to your VA benefits on the previous property. So we learned something new today, and I appreciate your expertise. Everybody tell Malcolm thank you. And if people want to get a hold of you, Malcolm, how can they do that?
You can come over and subscribe to my channel, Malcolm Lawson Realtor, and all my contact information is in there. I got a couple of videos all about the VA loan as well.
Yeah, you do. That's how I knew that you knew what we were talking about. All right, everybody, you have a fantastic week. I'm just letting you know this Tuesday's video is all about these container barnuminium type houses, steel buildings. So if you're interested in that, make sure you look for the video that's coming out on Tuesday. Everybody have a fantastic Sunday. Thank you for spending an hour with me. I couldn't have done it without you being here. That's for sure. Bye, everybody. We got to do this.